What's going on, guys? John Elder here from Codemy.com, and in this video, we're going to continue learning about databases with Django and Python. Alright guys, like I said in this video, we're going to continue learning about databases with Django and Python. But before we get started, if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, which really helps out the channel, and check out Codemy.com, where I have dozens of courses with hundreds of videos that teach you to code. Use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. That's all my courses, videos, and books for a one-time fee of just $49, which is insanely cheap. Okay, so in the last video, we set up our basic project here. And we've got a little website here with a home page, and it says hello world. Not a lot's going on. We haven't really done any database stuff yet. We looked at the admin area at, if you just go to localhost:8000/admin, and you can see we've already logged in. And you can play around here. You've got users. We only have one user. We created this super user in the last video, admin. And you can click on here and edit the stuff and do all the things. And that's not that exciting. That's not really what we want when we think about databases. So in this video, we're going to start to build out our database. And with Django, the really nice thing about Django and most web frameworks like Ruby on Rails, Django, things like that, is that the framework abstracts away the database. So you are never going to be writing SQL commands with Django. Django does all that for you in the background. All we have to do is create a class, define our model, what we want the database to be, and then create a migration and push that migration into the database, and Django takes care of the rest for us. It translates that class into SQL or whatever database you're using, and that's cool. Now, Django comes with a SQLite database, and that's what we're going to be using to start with. In future videos, we'll look at using other databases, Postgres, maybe MySQL, maybe Mongo, and we'll get into all that much later. In this video, we're just going to go with the default that comes with Django, just to sort of give you an idea of how this all works and how it, how you can start playing with databases. So let's head back over to our Sublime text, and let's see, what do we got? Website, and then just come down here to our models.py file, and this is where you can create your models for your website, for your database. And a model is just that. It's just a model for the database. You're just going to define, think of it like if you know SQL and you're setting up a database, you create a table, right? And then you define the columns in those tables. Well, that's what we're going to be doing here, but we're not going to be using SQL commands. We're just going to be writing Python and creating a class, and that'll work. So let's think about what we want our database to be. And, we're just sort of creating an example here. We're not really creating anything real at the moment. So let's just pretend that we have a membership website and we want people to join, right? So we want their first name, their last name, their email address. Maybe we want their age. I don't know. Maybe we want them to pick a password. Maybe we'll use their email as their username. Maybe we want them to type in a username, something like that. So let's try and build out something like that, at least theoretically. So, well, not theoretically, we're actually going to do it right now. So you just come in here and let's just build a class. And again, this is just straight up Python. And now we need to name this class. And the convention is to name it with an uppercase letter. So if we want to create a membership site, maybe this is our members class, right? And this will inherit models.model. And notice models is lowercase, model is uppercase. And these L's, these are all lowercase. Sublime makes these look uppercase for some reason. I don't know why they do that. It's always driven me nuts. And somebody's always going to type in a capital L when they see those, and it's going to screw it up. So those are all lowercase L's. So now we just, inside this class, all we have to do is define sort of the columns in our database, the fields. What do we want to save to the database? So let's say we want to save a first name, and I'm just gonna type these out for now, and then we'll look at them. So then we want a last name, and let's say we want an email address, and let's say we want a password, or maybe just pass WD, there we go. And let's say we want their age. I don't know why we would, but let's just say we do. And what else do we want? Do we want their address, zip code? Maybe, but we'll just leave it like this for now, because this will do the trick for us. So now we just need to define what these things are, right? And if you're dealing with regular databases like SQL stuff, here's where you would define the data type, right? Is it an integer? Is it a text field? Is it, is it a decimal? What is it? So to do this, we just call models dot, and then we name the thing that we want this to be. Now this is going to be text, and for text, most of the time the data type that Django has, I guess you would call it a data type, is char field. Capital C-H-A-R, capital F-I-E-L-D. And char field stands for character field. Think of it as just text, right? So then this is a function, and we can pass some things into this function. And one of the things you often want to do is max underscore length. And then we could set this equal to anything. And again, this is not a capital L. This is a lowercase l. I don't know why Sublime makes it look like a capital L. It drives me crazy. But max length, and then we can set this to anything we want. And I'm just going to put it to 200, or maybe let's go 100. Now, back in the days, like 20, 30 years ago, when you were dealing with databases, it was very important to define the length of your field. So how many characters are we going to allow them to type in as a first name? So, John, J-O-H-N, that's 4 characters. So you're probably not going to need 100 characters for a first name. So you could even do something like 50. Now, like I said, back in the day, it was important to define this because computers were not very strong. They were not very fast. They didn't have a lot of memory. And so in order to save memory, in order to save disk space, you wanted to define it just very precisely so it doesn't use up too much memory, right? Back then, computers were not strong enough, and it was important. These days, computers, web servers, RAM, everything is so fast and so sophisticated. I really don't believe that it's important to define a correct max length here. So I almost always just put it at 200 just because I'm used to creating a length field when I deal with databases because I've been doing this for 30 years. Realistically, I don't know that you really need to do that. So let's do the same thing for models. And maybe last names are a little bit bigger, so we'll put that at 100. And I'm just going to come in here and paste the same for all of these. Now, this is going to be different. Let's put this at 102. And password is 50. That's going to be fine. Age, let's put 3. Yeah, I guess somebody could be 100 years old, right? 100. But nobody's going to be more than 1,000 years old. So you're never going to have more than max length 3 for an age. Now, you'll notice for email, password, and age, we use char field, but that's probably not the best choice. And we can actually come to, let's see, the Django documentation. And this website is docs.djangoproject.com/en/3.0/topics/db/models, or you could just go to the documentation and search for models, and this will pop up. And if you scroll down here, this is actually great to read. There's all kinds of cool stuff in here you can learn about, and we're going to go through most of this throughout this course. But if you scroll down here, you'll find a link to basically data types, char field, and etc. Field types, Django calls it. And here's a big list of them. So you could just look through here. Char field, that's the one we've been using. And you can read about it if you want, the different attributes. Here we have the max length characteristic thing here, etc. You can have a date field if you want to record the date time, decimal field, duration field, and here's email field. And this is interesting because it's basically a char field, but it validates that the email is a valid email address for us. Back in the day when we were dealing with databases and forms, we had to write validation code to make sure an email address somebody entered was a real email address, right? A lot of times people put in fake email addresses because they don't want to give you your email address. This will actually validate. And you can see the max length is 254. So let's grab email field and let's use that for email. So instead of char field, this is going to be email field. And the max is 250, so I'm just going to put 200. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so that one's done. Now we have password and age. So let's check this out again. Let's kind of look through here. File field, if you want to upload files. Let's see what else. File path field, float field. Floats are like decimals, right? Floating point numbers, 10.69874. That's a float. Images, if you want to upload images. Integer field. Integers are whole numbers from negative to positive. So maybe we want to use integer field for age, right? Because an age is an integer. So let's go integer field, right? And now we just need password. So is there a password field? Let's kind of scroll down, slug field, URL field, time field, foreign key field. We'll maybe talk about that later. And it looks like there's no password field, so we can just come back here, and instead of a password field, we'll just use card field for this. So let's go ahead and save this. Now, you're not going to believe me when I say we're done, but we're done. This is all you have to do. Now we got to actually set this into motion yet, and that's pretty simple. But as far as defining our fields and our database and our table, this is it. It's done. This will create a table in our database called members. It will propagate it with columns for first name, last name, email, password, and age. And I should mention, anytime you add something to the database, anytime you fill out a member, for instance, a member signs up, the database will also create a primary key, an ID number, a unique ID number for each of those people that sign up. So, you know, databases always have unique IDs, primary keys, so that we can look up specific people in the future. You know, if there are 15 John Elders that sign up, we can't really search for John Elder. We'll get 15 results. But if each one has a unique ID, then we can look up number 49 John Elder and know that's different than number 72 John Elder. So each one of these automatically gets an ID number, a primary key number, when they upload their information the first time. So that's all done in the background for us, which is another great thing about Django. And most web frameworks will do that. Ruby on Rails does the same thing. So, okay, we've got our model. We've got it defined. Now what? Well, it's always a three-step process. This is the first step. We got to define it all. Then we have to make a migration, and then we have to push that migration into the database. So let's head back over to our Git Bash terminal. I'm going to Control-C to break out of here. And so we're in our C Django DB / Django DB directory. We've got our virtual environment turned on. If we ls, we can see here's our manage.py file, so we know we're in the right directory. So now we can just run the Python manage.py make migrations command. And it says max length is ignored when used with integer field. So hint remove max length. So that's interesting. We can go ahead and do that. So like I said, it does everything for us. It even tells us when we've done something silly. So we can save this, and let's go back and run this again. And we've now created a migration. Now we've created two migrations. The first one, this 001.initial.py, and the second one where we made a change is 002, etc. And here it says altered field age on members. So it even knows what we did. So we first created the model members, then we altered one of the fields. So very cool. So that's it. We've made a migration. Now, if we come back here to our code, we see this migrations folder, and it has those two migrations that we just created. Now, we don't really care, but we can look at these, and it's interesting. And here it's creating all the things that Django needs to now translate this into, sort of SQL, right? So here, very interesting, right? So these are cool. We can go ahead and close these. You're usually not ever going to want to actually look at these migrations, but there they are if you ever actually need to for some reason. So we've made our migration. Now we need to push our migration into the database, right? And we did this earlier with the admin area, right? So it's the same thing. We just go Python manage.py. It's always Python manage.py when you're running commands for Django. And then we just type in migrate. Migrate. Now it's going to push that into our database, and that's it. We are done. So now we can Python manage.py, run our server, and then we could go back to our admin area here and hit reload, and nothing has actually happened. Now, we want our newly formed database table to show up in the admin area, and so we can tinker with it and do stuff with it at the admin area. So to do that, we actually have to register it with our admin area. So we can come back to our code, and in our website directory, we can see this admin.py. And look at this, register your models here, right? So we can do that just by going, well, first we have to import it. So let's go from .models, because this models.py file is where our model is, right? We want to import whatever we called our class, right? And we called it member, or did we call it members? Members, we called it members. So import members. So save this. Now we also need to go admin.site.register and then pass in that class, so members. Okay, so save this, and really that's kind of all there is to it. We can come back here and hit reload, and boom, now we get members, right? So check it out. Django pluralizes, and I did this on purpose so that you would see this. Django pluralizes your database class that you create. So I called it members because in my mind it's members, right? But Django's going to pluralize it, so it's going to become members, right? So you're not going to want to pluralize these. You're always going to want to keep them singular. So if you were creating this normally, you would make this singular. You always want to make this singular. So we've already changed it, or we've already done it as plural, so we'll just leave it at this for now. But keep that in mind in the future. So we can come back over here to members, and we can click on this, and there's no members yet, but we can add one. And so let's go John Elder, john@codemy.com. Password is password, and you'll notice this is not a password field, so we can tinker with this if we want. And here we've got this thing. We could do it like this because we added this as an integer field. We're getting this thing here, or we could just type it in here. So let's go ahead and save this. And I, off camera, created another member object 1 just to see if it worked correctly. So now we're getting member object 2. So if we come back to our admin area and then we click on members again, we see this members object 2 thing. So every time we add a new person to our database, we're going to get another members object, and that's not that great. In fact, let's try this. Let's go Mary Smith. She's at blah blah blah. Password is password, and she's 19 years old. Now notice we didn't put a correct email. So if we save this, we get an error. It's not a valid email address because when we created our model, we designated this as an email field, and it runs a validator on it to make sure it's a real email address. So we can change this to mary@smith.com. It doesn't have to be a real email address. It just has to have the correct format, something at something dot whatever. So now if we save this, see we have this members object 3 and members object 2. And if we click on here, we see there's John Elder, and we can delete it, we can edit, etc. But this isn't really that cool. So members object. So how do we change that? Well, we can, and it's pretty simple. We could just come back to our model, and down here we can do a little voodoo and create and define a __str __, and here we want to pass in self, and then we just want to return self dot something. What do we want to show up there? Well, we can have last name, we can have first name. Let's go let's go F name, and now we can put more than one thing. So we can concatenate again, and then we can go self dot L name. So let's just save this and see what this looks like. If we go back here and hit reload, boom, Mary Smith and John Elder. Very cool. And now we have John Elder here. So pretty cool. And just that easy to create our database, our table, and our fields. Now, I realize if you've got a website that's a membership website, you're not going to want to give access to any person to come into the admin area to add themselves. You're going to want to do that from a website, from a web form, and we'll talk about that probably in the next video. In this video, I just wanted to show you how incredibly easy it is to get started. And so if you're interested, check out the Django documentation for models. You can read just some basic stuff here, seeing what's going on behind the scene when we create a table. Here it's transferring it into SQL behind the scenes. Talks a little bit about fields. Notice here, you can have more than one class, right? So if you want multiple tables, all you have to do is create another class in your models.py file and then slap a foreign key on it. You can see right here, foreign key. If you're familiar with databases, when you have more than one table, you associate them usually with a foreign key. And here it's just this easy to create a foreign key. So you can read about that if you're interested. And we may do that later on when we start playing with this, create a second table and associate them together. In fact, we probably will. So like I said, in the next video, we'll start to build out the website itself so that people can sign up from the website, not from the admin area. And also we can do things with logged in users on the website, not just in the admin area, edit the profiles and things like that. So we'll start to get into that in the next video. So that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, which really helps out the channel and I really appreciate. And check out Codemy.com where you can use coupon code YouTube1 to get $30 off membership. So you pay just $49 to access all my courses, over 40 courses, hundreds of videos, and the PDF versions of all my best-selling coding books. Join over 85,000 students learning to code just like you. My name is John Elder from Codemy.com, and we'll see you in the next video.